A man dismembered another man and dumped his body into the river. Reporters gathered, asking the killer the obvious question. Do you feel sorry for the victim's family? He didn't pause. He said,
전혀 미안하지 않습니다.
He even smiled and waved at the cameras. And some people online, they didn't just understand him. They called him a hero. It makes you wonder, what pushes a person to kill not for money, not for survival, but for pride? There's a line from Kingsman.
Manners maketh man.
Manners seem small until they're gone. And for some, that one moment of disrespect is enough to justify anything. This is the story of a murder, and the rage behind it. Jang Dae-ho was born in 1980, an only child raised by a single mother in South Korea. Jang described his mother as emotionally unstable, someone who often lashed out over trivial matters. By the time he was in middle school, he had stopped living with her entirely. He was completely cut off from his only parent. Jang was relentlessly bullied throughout his school years. The abuse wasn't just verbal. It was physical, isolating, and persistent. He had no real allies, no support. By the time he entered high school, it had become unbearable. He dropped out in his first year and later earned a high school equivalency diploma through South Korea's national exam system. Like all South Korean men, Jang was required to complete mandatory military service. Hoping to prove himself, he applied to join the elite Marine Recon Unit, one of the toughest and most respected branches. But he was rejected due to his height. Instead, he was assigned to alternative service as a technical worker, a civilian role given to those who don't meet the physical requirements for active duty. After his discharge, Jang drifted from one job to another, never staying long, never finding purpose. He joined a shrimp boat crew, where he spent long days hauling nets under the scorching sun, and nights sleeping in tight, uncomfortable quarters with other workers. He also worked at food trucks and street stalls. For a while, he even tried developing his own game. He coded alone in his room, convinced it could be his breakthrough. But the game never launched. He moved on to other jobs, working in karaoke bars and later at massage parlors. Most shifts started after dark and ended when the city was asleep. He kept working, but nothing stuck, and nothing gave him a reason to keep going. In 2005, he began working night shifts as a motel clerk. It was the first time in his adult life that he found anything resembling stability. Unlike his previous jobs, this one lasted. Over the years, he worked at multiple motels, usually alone on the night shift checking in guests, cleaning rooms, handling disputes. But while he appeared reliable at work, a different side of him emerged online. Jang was articulate and spent much of his time online deeply immersed in internet forums and fringe communities. He posted under different usernames, often switching identities across the platform. He gave blunt and often aggressive advice on everything from motel operations to how to deal with bullies. From 2004 to 2017, he was an active contributor on Naver's Q&A board, a knowledge-sharing forum hosted on Naver, South Korea's largest search engine and web portal. One of his most disturbing posts came in 2007. A student had written in asking for help. He was being bullied at school and didn't know what to do. Jang's reply was shockingly violent. He told the student to fight back, to grab a chair and strike the bully with it. He even suggested aiming with the metal part for maximum damage. The exact words were more graphic than this, but the message was clear. To Jang, violence wasn't a desperate option. It was the answer. And he doubled down. He claimed that kids need violence to learn how the world works. It's through fighting that they figure out how to survive in groups, he wrote. The ones who fight back, they're the ones who succeed later in life. Then, he coached them on how to manipulate adults afterward. When the teachers or parents ask why you did it, tear up a little. Look as pathetic as possible and say, "You don't know what they've done to me." Say everything, pour it all out, make them feel sorry for you. That way, the punishment won't be as bad. For most people, it read like a disturbing attempt to glorify violence. But for Jang, it wasn't just a one-off. Posts like this were frequent, cold, calculated, and disturbingly detailed. He didn't just tell the kid to fight back. He told him how to win, how to aim for maximum damage, and more importantly, how to walk away with minimal consequences. Over time, he developed a rule he lived by. If someone hurts you, hurt them worse. In another post, Jang bragged about standing up to a guest covered in tattoos. He thought his tattoos made him untouchable. I told him, "Just because you've got ink doesn't mean a knife won't cut you." Jang wasn't just a keyboard warrior. He immersed himself in the internet's darker corners. He was a known user of Il-Bay, one of South Korea's most notorious online forums, under the nickname Jin Billy. He didn't just live online, he performed. He uploaded video of himself practicing the moonwalk. Here's the clip. He posted the same moonwalk clip again and again. Not once, not twice, dozens of times. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing something quieter, attention, maybe even approval. In real life, people ignored him. Online, he had control. The angle, the lighting, the timing, everything bent to his will. Maybe that gave him a sense of power he couldn't find anywhere else. But the internet didn't reward him. It laughed. Users mocked him, called him moonwalk gay. What he wanted was acknowledgement. What he got was humiliation. And that gap between what he needed and what he received cut deep. Eventually, he left the forum. By 2016, he had briefly entered a relationship. For a moment, it seemed like things might change. But after a failed stock investment, he shut down again, this time more completely. He rarely left his room, spending his days glued to a screen, his nights drifting through the internet. By 2019, Jang Dae-ho was 39 years old. He had been quietly working night shifts at a motel in Seoul. The owner, impressed by his work ethic and long experience, often left the night operations entirely in Jang's hands. Co-workers described him as diligent but intense, someone who didn't tolerate mistakes and often clashed with difficult customers. In one incident, a guest mistakenly handed him a 5,000 won bill thinking it was 50,000 won. Jang didn't hesitate. He accused the man of trying to cheat him, then threw him out. It looked like a minor incident, but it wasn't. Jang didn't tolerate mistakes. He didn't walk away, he struck back, fast, loud, and unforgiving. To him, it wasn't overreaction. It was his own version of justice. And soon, that twisted sense of justice would turn into something far worse. On the evening of August 7, 2019, a man walked into a modest motel in Seoul's Yeongdeungpo district. Jang Dae-ho was the night clerk on duty, quiet, unassuming, watching. The man, later identified as Mr. Lee, was 32 years old. He was an ethnic Korean born and raised in China, a member of the Korean Chinese community, often referred to in South Korea as Joseon Jok. Lee had moved to South Korea in search of better work opportunities. Lee ran a massage business that wasn't officially registered and may not have been entirely legal. At home, he had a pregnant wife and a 5-year-old son waiting. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying to build a life for his family. What exactly happened that night remains unclear. Most of what we know comes from Jang's own account and has never been independently verified. Jang claimed that Lee argued over the cost of the room, insisting it should be 30,000 won instead of the posted 40,000 won. He described Lee as aggressive and disrespectful, blowing cigarette smoke in his face, calling him names, and even throwing a punch. Lee also demanded to speak directly with the owner, questioning Jang's authority to make decisions. The motel's CCTV system had no audio, and while it captured part of their interaction, no footage showed Lee physically assaulting Jang. No injuries or physical evidence supported Jang's claim. Even so, Jang gave him the room key and let him stay. But something about the encounter stuck with him, an insult he couldn't let go of. What troubled Jang even more was how it would look the next morning when his younger, less experienced coworker took over. He imagined Lee refusing to pay, making a scene, doing exactly what he had done to him. To Jang, that felt like passing his own defeat onto someone else, like letting a junior watch him back down. He wasn't just stewing over an insult. He was building a justification. That night, he broke. Years of humiliation, of being looked down on and dismissed, came rushing back. He saw Lee not just as one man, but as every man who had ever treated him like he didn't matter. And this time, he wasn't going to swallow it. No more backing down, no more staying quiet. At dawn on August 8, Jang took the master key and quietly entered Lee's room, carrying a hammer. Lee was asleep, lying on his side, vulnerable, defenseless. Jang lifted the hammer over his head and brought it down repeatedly. Each strike was brutal. Skull, blood, bone. Lee never had a chance. He died instantly. But Jang didn't panic. He left the body where it was, covered the window, locked the door, and then he went back to work, calm, robotic. He even warned cleaning staff not to go near that room, claiming it was under repair. For 4 days after the murder, the body remained in the room. Though not officially reported, decomposition would have started and the stench likely spread. On August 11, Jang bought tools, a saw, black plastic bags, cleaning supplies, and gloves. That night, Jang returned with the tools he had bought and began to dismember the body. He cut the corpse into major sections: torso, arm, head, and sealed each in thick black garbage bags. Between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. on August 12, Jang used a bicycle to make several trips from the motel to a nearby stream just under a kilometer away. He dumped the body parts one by one, under cover of darkness. The stream eventually flowed into the Han River. On the morning of August 12, around 9:15 a.m., a Han River patrol officer discovered a severed, headless torso floating near the Magok Bridge, along the Han River in Seoul. It was wrapped in a black trash bag, but the water had torn it open. Panic spread. Police launched a full-scale investigation. Drones scanned the riverbanks. Divers searched beneath the bridge. They later recovered other body parts, including both arms and the head. The victim was soon identified through fingerprints: Mr. Lee. Police traced his last known location to the Yeongdeungpo Motel. On August 16, detectives visited and questioned Jang behind the front desk. He calmly insisted the motel's CCTV system had been broken and refused to hand over the guest register or the owner's contact. The officers left, unaware of what they had just missed. Over the next few hours, Jang quietly erased the CCTV footage 3 separate times. Then, sometime after midnight, he packed his bag and walked out. Around 1 a.m. on August 17, 2019, Jang Dae-ho walked into the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency. Calmly, he told the officer on duty, "I'm the one who committed the Han River murder." But instead of taking immediate action, the officer brushed him off. "This isn't the right place. Go to Jongno Police Station." So Jang left. This actually happened. A man walked into a police station, not to file a noise complaint, not to report a stolen phone. He confessed to murder. When this story came out, people lost it. If even a murderer can't report himself properly, what chance does anyone else have? The police got dragged hard for that one. And honestly, they deserved it. But Jang wasn't done. If the police wouldn't listen, he'd find someone who would. He called a reporter from a national news station and confessed calmly, detailing everything he had done. When asked why he reached out to the media, Jang later explained, "Because the police didn't believe me." Finally, he walked into Jongno police station and officially turned himself in. He didn't just kill a man. He deleted the CCTV footage, cleaned up, and thought through exactly what he'd say when he turned himself in. He wanted to control the story from the very beginning. This wasn't rage. It was a performance. A performance designed to make him look like a man delivering justice, not committing murder. Someone who did what the law couldn't. Just like his response to that bullied student, he didn't just act. He planned every beat. From the violence to the aftermath, it was all part of a performance he wrote himself. So when reporters later asked if he regretted what he'd done, Jang didn't hesitate.
상대방이 죽을지 그랬습니다. 반성하고 있지 않습니다.
His words were chilling, but not everyone saw him as a monster. Online, the reaction was split. In certain corners of the internet, especially forums steeped in anti-Chinese sentiment, Jang was glorified. They gave him a nickname, Long Big Tiger. To them, he wasn't a killer. He was a symbol, a man who stood up to evil. But it wasn't just about ethnicity. Jang claimed the victim had 5 prior convictions, including assault. He said the man was violent, aggressive, and deserved what happened. That claim was never officially confirmed, but it spread fast. And for many, it made all the difference. He killed a thug, they said. Someone who would have hurt more people anyway. But others saw something darker. It was a message from a man who believed he had the right to decide who lives and who doesn't. In court, Jang showed no remorse. He refused to apologize to the victim's family. He insisted it wasn't murder, it was justice. Until the very end, he believed he was right. But outside the courtroom, reality continued. The man he killed was someone's husband, and at the time of his death, his wife was pregnant. In the weeks that followed, the stress, the shock, and the endless media coverage took a toll. She miscarried, she lost the baby. She didn't just lose her husband, she lost everything. But her pain never went viral. While Jang's voice spread like wildfire on internet forums, her grief, quiet, raw, and real, was drowned out by the noise online. Jang Dae-ho was sentenced to life in prison. And yet, his words still echo across the internet, repeated by those who see violence not as a last resort, but as a form of justice. In their eyes, he didn't just kill, he cleansed. But if we start believing that some people deserve to die, who gets to decide who they are? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for watching Eastern Noir. Subscribe for more true crime stories from the East.